To the Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Filipino and Social Studies, to our instructor in GE3, Mr. Mark Joseph Nonato, good day to each and every one of you. Today, I will explain to you the factors which will affect any presentation. Nowadays, each and everyone have to give presentations, and I think it is important to know the main factors which will affect the whole presentation, especially that we will be teachers. So here are our desired learning outcomes. That to discuss the different factors affecting effective delivery of presentation effectively, and that you will be able to realize the factors that should be considered while delivering a presentation. So what is the purpose of presentation? Okay, it is to persuade, to influence, to analyze, but mainly to inform. That is why we need to consider various factors in order to accomplish our purpose. So now, here are the factors affecting effective delivery of presentation. First, audience analysis. Analyzing audience in a proper way prior the presentation. So if the speaker has analyzed the audience in a proper way before the presentation, his presentation will be more effective. On the other hand, poor or improper audience analysis leads to ineffective presentation. The style of the presentation is largely dependent upon the type and the size of the audience. If the audience is large, presentation should be more formal, whereas informal presentation can work in small audience. Second, communication environment or the physical surrounding of the speaker. So communication environment affects the effectiveness of the presentations. Much of the audience notices the physical things surrounding the speaker, the stage, lighting arrangement, background, and many others. Proper arrangement of these things can enhance the impact of the presentation. If there is noise in the surrounding environment, it detracts the audience from listening and consequently leaves unhealthy messages. Third, personal appearance, or the way the speakers dress up, which can influence their confidence. Personal appearance of the speaker has great impact on the audience. Well-dressed up person can deliver a good presentation. Therefore, the speaker should wear neat and clean clothes and take time to check his appearance just before starting the presentation. Fourth, the use of visuals. So visuals can enhance the performance or the professional image of the presentation. Different research studies demonstrate that presenters using latest visual techniques are perceived as better prepared, more persuasive, more credible, and more interesting than speakers who do not use visuals. But visuals work only if the technology in which they depend works well. Therefore, presenters should check the equipment in advance before presenting. Number 5, opening and closing of presentation. So the beginning and the closing of a presentation are positions of emphasis. Those presenters who can open the presentation with interesting remarks which are likely to create more interest and enthusiasm for listening the presentation. So on the other hand, presenters with poor opening are likely to leave the audience bored. Similarly, the ending of the presentation has profound impact on the audience. Endings with vivid and positive pictures are more likely to have profound impact on the audience. Number 6, clarity, organization of presentation. clarity in presentation is essential that comes with the proper organization of the information. So organizing the information in a proper manner can make the message more understandable, keep the audience happy, and boost the image of the speaker. Proper organization of the presentation enhances the effectiveness of the presentation. On the other hand, improper organization of the presentation will not influence the audience. Improper organization of presentation is reflected as follows. No, taking a long time to get to the point. We have speakers like that. Inclusion of irrelevant material. So it is unnecessary. And leaving out necessary information. And even mixing up of ideas which are too far from each other. So to overcome these problems, presentation can be organized in one of the 5 standard patterns. So chronological, it starts with the past, moves to the present, and ends by looking ahead. Problem causes solution. It explains the symptoms of the problem, identifies its causes, and suggests the remedial measures. Excluding alternatives. It shows the symptoms of the problem, suggests possible solutions, explains the reasons why these don't work, and ends the discussion with a solution that will work. And pros and cons. It explains the advantages and disadvantages of the problems. And lastly, the 1, 2, 3 standard pattern. It discusses 3 aspects of the topic. It should have introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Number 7, language and words. So the quality of presentation is affected by the language and words to make the audience understand the message. The speaker has to talk in the language known to the audience. To enhance the impact of presentation, he should choose the catchy words that appeal to the heart and emotions of the audience. If the language spoken by the presenter is different from audience language and words used are stereotyped, it is likely to have least impact on the audience. For example, we are talking to the public where majority of them are speaking in Kanaraya, so we should speak in Kanaraya, especially when majority of those in those public that we are speaking of are uneducated or commoners. Number 8, the quality of voice. So quality of voice of the presenter affects the effectiveness of the presentation. Modulation is always necessary. So voice modulation is likely to have greater impact upon the audience, whereas monotonous voice will bore the audience. Number 9, body language. So the effectiveness of the presentation is also affected by the body language of the speaker. For example, eye contact and confident movements. So a speaker having eye contact with audience is likely to impress more than a speaker reading out the handouts. A speaker who looks more at the audience is judged as better informed, more experienced, more honest and friendliest than a speaker who delivers the speech with less eye contact. With eye contact, members of the audience feel that speaker is talking to them. Similarly, confident, moving speakers are likely to have more impact than nervous speakers. To calm one's nervousness, one should be well prepared. Take several deep breaths, relax one's muscles, pause and look at the audience, and use body energy in strong gestures and movement. Lastly, we have answering questions. The effectiveness of the presentation is also affected by the presenter's skill in handling questions asked at the end of the presentation. A speaker who answers the audience question and handles hostile questions with tact is likely to influence the audience more. On the other hand, a speaker who answers rudely will leave negative impact upon the audience. So effective presentation is when someone understands what we wanted to convey. And I hope you garnered something valuable from my presentation that I know we can use in the future as prospective teachers. So before we end, let's all read this quotation by Jacqueline Kennedy Oasis. So we should all do something to right the wrongs that we see and not just complain about them. So if we see someone who we think needs to know something what we know, we must share what we have. We should not be afraid to ask questions and be questioned. We must not hesitate to give advice and be advised when it is due, for it is for our own improvements. Let us correct each other's mistake and celebrate together every victories we have. Thank you and Godspeed.